In Infinities' Defiance of Fate, a faction leader acts as your avatar and is represented as a playmat with 3 attribute tracks, a unique set of skills called gambits, and a gambit track, which holds your leader tokens. Leaders also have a pawn and a tide marker to track your position and momentum in the game. You can play up to 4 unit cards into your leader's group at a time to bolster your leader's attributes and gain new abilities. You can also play ability cards to perform one-shot effects. For your turn, you'll roll 5 action dice and use 3 of them to move across map tiles, play cards, or attack enemies. With attribute bonuses, leaders can manipulate their dice to craft ideal turns from non-ideal rolls. Each game of Infinities takes place simultaneously in 2 worlds of modular hex tiles connected by a rift. As players explore, they choose the size and shape of the worlds. Because Infinities is a multiverse setting, all worlds you create are technically canon. Positioning on the map itself is important because each type of tile possesses a unique event which offers its own tactical advantages. In addition to your group of units, you also control a timeline, which is an area on one side of your playmat where you can prepare any card to play in a future turn. Cards with the prepared keyword gain a benefit while in the timeline. You may have 3 cards in your timeline at once. You may also hold 5 cards in your hand while you decide the best time to prepare or play them. The energy die result is used to play and prepare cards. The power result is used to attack enemy leaders. The fortitude result is used in map interaction and blocking enemy effects. Sometimes you will be tasked with using your action dice for a dice check. This is designated by these icons. To attempt the check, roll 1 die per level your leader currently has in the listed attribute. You are aiming for the result shown on the icon or a star. If at least 1 die achieves the desired result, you pass. Gambits are your leader's unique abilities and actions. 2 of these are triggered by specific conditions and spending of tokens, while the 2 others require spending a gambit die result during your turn. Gambit tokens are used as a resource to fuel your leader's triggered abilities and to block enemies' abilities and actions. You will gain 1 of these at the start of each round. Health is the toughness of your units and is represented by health tokens. This is on the other side of your leader token from the gambit symbol. If a unit loses all of its health, it is destroyed. Many actions and abilities allow you to add or subtract these tokens to bolster or weaken units. Influence is a number marked inside a hexagon icon on all map tiles. Influence determines turn order at the start of each round, so keen awareness and strategic positioning is crucial to your success. Some mechanics will also scale based on your current influence. This is the game state mat. It is used to track game time and scoring. At the start of every round, turn order can change based on each player's current tile. Players in higher influence tiles earn turn priority. Players use their leader token to indicate current turn order and a 10-sided die to track the round number. Along the edges of the mat is the tide meter, which is a score tracker used differently depending on the game mode you're playing. Infinities supports 2 major game modes, Skirmish mode and Adventure. Skirmish is a great way to learn Infinities and to play competitive matches. In Skirmish mode, players are presented with a randomized set of objectives on a scenario card. Completing these objectives can grant or deduct victory points or tide. The player with the most tide after 5 rounds wins the game. In Adventure mode, players progress through a branching story, 1 chapter at a time using an adventure guide. Each chapter has unique actions, objectives, and allegiances, and can lead to multiple chapters depending on the game's outcome. Additionally, the ending of each chapter will result in some form of semi-permanent modification to the game's assets or rules for the remainder of the adventure campaign. These are called story threads. In every game of Infinities, players build a map of 2 worlds connected by a rift tile. This is where the game begins. When moving out of the rift tile, players can discover a tile from either world. After that, players always pull tiles from the world they currently occupy. If they are leaving the rift tile, players can choose to pull from either world. You can move from one world to the other as long as you have a clear path between those tiles. No need to rely on the rift. A tile can only accommodate 1 leader at a time after the game begins. Tiles have a name and 3 properties: walls, a type, and influence. These solid bars on the edges of tiles are walls, which prevent movement and reach. Remember, when discovering new tiles, you need to position those with no walls in your path. The basic tile types are Stealth, City, Sacred, Wild, and Travel. The Sands of Vara world includes the Oasis type, and the Genesis circuit includes the Satellite type. Each tile type has a special event which occurs on all tiles that match that type. When starting your turn in a Sacred tile, you may lock in one of your action roll dice to a star before rolling the rest of them. After entering a City tile, you may draw 3 cards. After entering a travel tile, you may warp your pawn to either a city or a sacred tile. While occupying a stealth tile, you can ignore walls for movement and reach. If you end your turn in a wild tile, you can replace any vacant world tile on the map with the top tile from its stack, then shuffle that stack. When you start a turn in an oasis tile, you may gain 1 gambit token. When you end your turn in a satellite tile, you may pick up your tile and place it and your pawn on top of an adjacent vacant tile, burying it. When it is your turn, perform an action roll with 5 dice and lock in 3 of them. Your leader starts at level 1 in all attributes. As you raise your levels by playing units into your group, you will earn various dice bonuses to assist your action roll. Note that you will lose these bonuses as units are destroyed. Place locked in dice on your playmat one at a time. When all dice are locked in, move to the main phase of your turn by spending the dice to perform actions. Set your spent dice off to the side of your playmat to keep track of what you've done. You can spend 1 energy per cost of a card to play it from your hand. The cost of a card is the number to the left of the card's name. Units, which are designated by a banner in the top left, are played into your group. Add health tokens to the unit and increase your leader's attribute matching the unit's attribute. For a one-shot ability card, declare your targets, resolve the ability text, then discard the card. You can also spend 1 energy to prepare any card from your hand into your timeline, regardless of its cost. In a future turn, you can play a timeline card for 1 energy, again regardless of its cost. The timeline becomes a great way to spread the cost of a card across turns while also taking advantage of any prepared bonuses it has. All power actions require reach, which is an area of tiles including your own, plus a clear path of up to 3 active tiles. Walls, inactive tiles, and enemy pawns all obstruct this path. You can spend 1 power to deal 1 damage to a leader's unit. Or, you can spend 1 power to roll a power check to try to destroy a card. In this check, you'll roll dice equal to your leader's current power level. If any die result is power or star, you will pass this check and destroy a targeted card in your reach. You can also spend 1 power to destroy 2 of a leader's gambit tokens. Spend 1 fortitude to move up to 2 spaces. You cannot move in a direction with a pawn or a wall in your path. Moving into a new space, called Discovery, means you pull a tile from the same world as yours and orient it any way you'd like without a wall in your path, then move into it. Spend 1 fortitude to flip over a tile in reach. Flip tiles are no longer active, meaning they now prevent reach. If a leader is in the tile you'd like to flip, you must first choose a direction for them to move 1 space, then turn their tile over. And an active tile can be rediscovered only by a leader moving back into it, at which time they may reorient it if they wish. Spend 1 fortitude to warp a rift tile. Place the rift and anything on top of it adjacent to any tile or on top of a vacant tile. This can be used to deny events, nullify walls, or bridge gaps preventing reach. Spend a gambit die to use one of your leader's unique gambit actions. These are the 2 lower entries in the gambit section of your playmat and are a unique pair for each leader. You can use the star action die to perform the action of any other die result. The circle has no unique actions of its own, but it can be used for spend any die mechanics, which are listed with an X icon. Let's look closer at the leader mat. On the left is your attribute track, which contains 3 columns of cumulative dice bonuses. At level 1, you have a baseline of being able to spend any die to draw 2 cards or gain 1 gambit token. You may also convert up to all of your circle dice to energy. At level 2, you gain bonuses for locking in certain die results. Level 2 power enables you to draw 1 card per power you lock in. Level 2 energy allows you to add 1 health to a unit per gambit you lock in. Level 2 fortitude allows you to gain 1 gambit token per fortitude that you lock in. At level 3, you gain dice manipulation bonuses. Level 3 power adds a 6th die to your action roll. Level 3 energy allows you to convert up to all circle dice to gambit now. Level 3 fortitude allows you to re-roll all of your dice, including any you have locked in already. This is all or nothing, but is a good way to repair a bad roll. Level 4 in all attributes enables you to lock in an additional die in your action rolls for 1 more action. Reaching level 5 in an attribute raises your other attributes by 2 levels each. This is a powerful bonus that is challenging to maintain because it places an obvious target on your back. Always remember that more attributes from your units means higher levels on your leader and then better dice bonuses. On the right side of your playmat are your gambit abilities and actions. This is a set of 4 skills unique to every leader. The bottom 2 will require a gambit die to activate, while the top 2 require italicized triggers to occur. You must then spend the required amount of Gambit tokens to activate them. You will spend Gambit tokens to activate other mechanics such as blocking, so managing your amount will be part of your overall strategy. If an enemy targets your leader, your dice, your cards, or your tile, you can attempt a block. First, you must spend Gambit tokens. If dice were spent by the enemy for an action such as power for damage or fortitude for a flip, you must spend 2 Gambit tokens per die. If the enemy used a card ability or a Gambit trigger, spend 1 Gambit token per printed cost of the card or token used by the enemy. Now, make a fortitude check. If you pass the check, you ignore the ability. Some abilities allow you to cancel a mechanic. In this case, you negate the mechanic and treat it as if it never existed. Cancels are rare but potent. Even more potent is the Fated keyword. Mechanics marked with Fated cannot be blocked or canceled. Make the most of these because there is no way for your opponent to prevent them. Let's look at a basic turn to see how rolling, locking in, and spending action dice works. For my turn, I roll 5 action dice and receive these results. I assess my options and convert the circle to energy, which is always an option due to the level 1 energy bonus. I lock in a power, Gambit, and energy by placing them on my mat, so now I can start spending them. I spend the Gambit result to activate one of my leader's Gambit actions. In this case, discarding 1 card to destroy another of equal or less cost. After I resolve that, I spend the power to deal 1 damage to my enemy's group. And finally, 1 energy to play my Sun Lizard Brood, which increases my power level to 2. My dice are spent, so my turn is over. It's that simple. Now that you have the basics, let's set up the game. Place the faction decks and tile stacks on opposite sides of the table, and discard 1 from each deck to start discard piles. Place the Rift tile at the center of the table, and have all leaders place their pawn inside. If playing Adventure Mode, now is the time to consult the Adventure Guide to determine which chapter you are playing. Each leader now pulls a tile from either world stack and moves into it from the Rift in influence order. Then, each leader adds 2 tiles from their current world to adjacent spaces to build out the starting map. Arrange leader tokens on the game state mat from highest to lowest influence, using alphabetical order of tile names to break ties. Set the 10-sided die on the mat to 0. In turn order, players choose a leader, then place 1 Gambit token in a Gambit track box, and 3 attribute cubes at level 1. If playing Skirmish Mode, now is the time to reveal a card from the Scenarios deck to establish the game's objectives, and place your tide markers at 25 each. If this is your first game of Infinities, we recommend trying the Initiation scenario for 3 rounds. In turn order, players now complete their initial draw. Draw 5 cards from your faction's deck. You may discard up to all 5 of these as a mulligan, then draw back up to 5. Finally, all players can deploy. This takes place before round 1 and is a chance for leaders to establish their card presence on the table. Lock in 3 energy dice and spend them as you normally would. And now you're ready to explore, battle, summon, and tell a story that will never be duplicated. Thank you for watching our How to Play video. For more details on gameplay, visit batales.com/rulebook to access the full game rules. We hope you enjoy your journey into Infinities.